Right. So, welcome everybody to the module 4 of the Family Constellation Virtual Training. I was really looking forward to bring this module to you and working on it for a long time now. It is the first time that I teach this module because I only have used everything I'm going to teach today and more in the last 10 years in my practice, but I have never actually spoken about it or talked to somebody about it. And I talked to my teacher. Most of the content you are hearing is based on Malcolm Southwood and his teachings and of Bert Hellinger. And as you know, Bert Hellinger passed away last year, and I had communicated with Malcolm a few months ago, and he mentioned he is retired now and he is not providing workshops anymore. So all his knowledge, he will not teach anymore. So that made me really excited to continue, so to speak, his lineage and make sure it's not getting forgotten, because it is absolutely it is so valuable, you will see, and it will open the mind for everybody by far. So what we are talking today, tomorrow, and next weekend, for some will sound familiar maybe in specific ways or in some details. For some it will be interesting and completely new and maybe even overwhelming. So I ask you not to believe anything I say. I never believed any of my teachers, but I also never disbelieved any of my teachers. I was just open to the field and what it will do for me and what it will bring me, because it is no coincidence that we are here together. Yeah, for some reason we meant to be here together, and these words that you are hearing today are meant for you. And if the mind comes in with an opinion about it, either, oh yeah, I know it, or oh no, I can't believe that, this is all an opinion created in the mind and is opposing the purpose why you are here. Because you're just here to get this information and embody that in your life and your work, and then make it a lived reality for you, right? So let's go straight into it. I'm sharing the screen. Won't be a minute. And ideally, this is all coming through, is it? So for those of you who are not so familiar with Zoom, you put everybody on gallery view. Put the gallery view in one corner of your screen. And then there is a little white arrow. You can drag the arrow down, and then until you have everybody on your screen. Right? Okay. So we are talking about, in module 4, we are talking about, let me just do that differently here. Here we go. Working with the spirit mind. So what does that mean? And where it does and how we do that and where it leads us, this is all part of the module 4. In this part today, we are talking about spiritual and emotional healing. And I talk to you in a way, or I teach the content in a way that I find it most helpful for personal development and or to incorporate that into any kind of healing modalities, including the classical healing modalities, and or to incorporate it in family constellation facilitating. So it either ticks one or all of the boxes, and also is suitable for beginners in this means. So everything has been screened to this net. So we're starting, of course, by looking at the words and definitions and finding out what this even means. Healing. Why healing? Now, you might think that's a very stupid question. Who thinks that's a really stupid question? Hands up. Why healing? Why? There must be a reason for everything we do, right? And it is really a good question, because if you're thinking of what we learned in the previous modules, or what you know from your life experience and from ancient teaching, is that the most blissful moment is when you accept things as they are. When you stop fighting them, when you accept them as they are. So why would anybody, including yourself, need healing if everything is good as it is? That is a very deep question, and I invite you to ponder on it tonight or tomorrow, all day. But of course, this is a rhetoric question in a way, because we are all about healing, and that has a reason. So why are we healing is, and we go through all these, is you cannot live the full potential of the spiritual life you are meant to live if you have business to do that has to do with your body or your emotions. Because these energies are keeping you low. And when this energy is keeping you low, you cannot evolve to finer realms of consciousness. So anything that is a burden to the body or to the mind, including the emotions, is dragging you down, as if you would have sandbags on your feet and you would like to swim, or you go up out of the water and you just can't, right? And healing, in the way we are teaching, or we are doing it, means to cut off the sand sacks from the feet and let you float up to the surface. You can see the light. And once you have discovered that for yourself, then you will be more than excited to provide this service to others, because you know how much it means to you. And this is why we heal. We are not healing because you have like an uncomfort. That's not healing. Or somebody comes with an uncomfort. That's not healing. We are going, as you know, with family constellation, always to the source, which is always deeper than the classic medical industry will teach us or tell us. No? So we are never bothered with the symptoms when we talk about healing, other than we take it as a marker or an indicator. But other than that, the symptoms don't mean anything to us. Yeah? When we talk about healing, we talk about either spiritual, emotional, or energy healing. So these are the three terms that you hear often and that we use as well. Of course, we go through it and see what is what and how we apply what to what. So we have to ask ourselves the question, what is energy? What are emotions? And then we talk about the frequency of emotions. We have to talk about what is spirit. And while we talk about what is spirit, we also talk about spiritual colors. And we have to understand the process of birth, death, and rebirthing. And that will actually be in detail in part 3 and 4. And we have to understand how to navigate, what are the spiritual worlds and how to navigate the spiritual worlds. So we talk in detail about the earth, the astral plane, the in-between world, the plane of light. There are lots of different other planes in lots of tradition that's far beyond that, but to simplify, that's enough to know, to understand how life is created and where your journey is. That's enough. We don't need to be concerned with all the other details. We have to go through the thoughts and belief systems in the different worlds. And we will see in the end that happiness and freedom is the journey and the destiny. Okay, so we talked briefly about it. Why healing? We have to let go of especially trauma and pain. Trauma and pain are holding us in low vibrations, in low states of energy, and do not allow us to experience the higher states of consciousness. That is the importance of healing. we have to change the perspective. If we want to change, you probably know the quote. I don't know who it was. Was it Martin Luther or Gandhi? I don't know. But it was like, if you want to change yourself. If you want to change the world, change yourself. It's all about perspective. You know. And healing, the process of healing is changing the perspective. And we will do that. I'm sure you change your perspective after module 4. Some probably even completely. After the process of healing, or through the process of healing, you will discover that there is so much more to discover than you even thought. Because looking from this state where you are in before healing took place, your world is small and restricted because it's your perspective. You are looking from this perspective. But once this falls away, the world becomes wider and bigger and deeper. And that is where you find, oh my gosh, there's so much more to discover. I never thought of it. Of course, you never thought of it. You cannot, because you can only think in the restrictions of your consciousness. As wider the consciousness is, as more you explore. That's the other reason why we want to heal ourselves and maybe even others. True healing, that will be later today. You will see true healing can only be, or is only enabled on a spiritual level. And we will also find out that creativity is a life's true purpose. Okay, so this was kind of the overview. Now let's go into it. Emotional and energy healing. So first of all, we are always healing the soul, not the body. The body is following the soul. The physical is not influencing the soul is influencing the physical. And where we find the soul, what that even is and how we do that, that's part of this part that you will discover in this part. The other a general term is we are only putting effort in that what will last. The body doesn't last, as you all know. In fact, the body can decay tomorrow, right? Why would we put all the effort being fit and nice looking and into that when it's gone tomorrow or in 10 years or whenever? This makes no sense. The same is with a disease. Why would you try to heal your body if that is the part that doesn't last? Yeah. So we are only concerned with the soul when we are talking about healing, because the body will adjust itself in no time. And we know that, and this is why we all love family constellation, because it is moving, it's freeing the souls in our family, and then all of a sudden we experience this amazing freedom all of a sudden, and this space and this happiness. And that is that. And then you maybe came with an itch here or in something there, discomfort here and there, and then you realize after a few weeks, oh, I actually don't have that anymore. And you don't know even why. But I was just in the process of healing, that it is just fading out, just not important anymore. It's only a hint. It's only a way shower, everything in the physical body. That's what it is. And this is why we have to talk also about birth and death, obviously, because otherwise, and the other words, otherwise we don't know what lasts and what doesn't last in all of this. So we are confused here. And if we don't have directions, we don't know where to go, honestly. We're just floating around. And that is the difference of, living from an intuitive level or living from a level of experienced knowledge. Of course, I'm not dead. I cannot tell you how I experienced it. So that's right away. But I can tell you how other people who are reporting back, experienced it, and how I see it in family constellations and in the healing sessions. So how do we heal? So when we talk about the soul, this is actually synonym to emotions. Yeah. So we are actually healing emotion, and we do that with the help of energy and information. And who is doing actually what? Who is guiding? It's the spirit. And this is also why Bert Hellinger called his latest work Going with the Spirit Mind, or the spirit. In German, it's spirit. Because that's the source of it. It's not that you heal, spiritual healing is not that you heal the spirit is perfectly fine, but it's the spirit who is actually doing the work. So let's go into details here. What is energy? So first of all, unseen forces, obviously. If you think of electric power, which is energy, which is most common, if you think of Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and you name it, right? Then you know, and how it was discovered, you know that it was always there. It always works. It always has been there, but it hasn't been discovered yet. So knowledge hasn't been there how to actually use it. And once the electricity, who was always there, has been discovered in a usable form, life has changed for everybody. And the same with Bluetooth lately, right? So that is exactly the same energy we are talking about when we are talking about energy healing. It's also an unseen forces who was always there and will always be there. We are not creating it, but we don't know how to use it. We sometimes use it involuntarily or intuitively, but we don't know how to use it. But now you learn how to use it and you can apply it. That's the difference. And that's what changed, what's changing the world or your world. Energy are similar to thought forms. They are actually not yours. So we are like the ego mind is like so used to say my mind and my energy. My energy is so energy is it's always outside. It's something that is everywhere. It's the way you are able to receive it and adapt it and create it and use it in your specific way. So you pull it in, so to speak, when you deliberately or involuntarily, or you give it away. So that's the same with thoughts. They are not created as if like molecules in your body, like proteins. They are created in your body. But not thoughts, not emotions, and not energy. Energy, thoughts, emotions, they are there. They are in their field. That's a field that is available for all of us. And what we are doing, we are tapping in the field and taking that out that is in frequency with ourselves. And ourselves are our belief systems and our emotions and so forth. So this is how it in generally works. And the same we do with the energy we use for energy healing. When we talk about energy, we have to talk about vibrations and frequency. Because energy is nothing else than something that is unseen and that vibrates in this pattern, which creates a frequency. And the most common frequencies you know is what you hear, you know, in hertz or in decibel or something like that. That's common to us, this kind of frequencies. But the frequency, everything that is alive, everything that is imbued by spirit has a frequency or changes frequencies. We are living in a universe of frequency. That is what makes everything alive. So when we talk about the energies and energy healing, we talk about frequency and vibration in greater detail. What is the home of energies? It's the earth. Here we are talking about earth and the body. So the energies that are we are talking about for healing purposes. There we are getting in when the body is formed, and that is where we have the energies, and that's where we use it. So other than in the families constellation, where we connect to the morphic field, which is not, so to speak, with us all the time, but with the family system, and then you temporarily connect with it and go in and out with the energy field that you have that is surrounding you. Yeah, and we come how this happens through the birth process to that later, I think in part 3. But this is the energy that you can either use or waste, right? So what are emotions? Now, emotions are also unseen forces. You might think, I actually see emotions. You see somebody with frowning or angry or tears are running or anything. That is just what the body is expressing as emotions, but the emotion itself is completely unseen. And you know also people who are very emotional and they don't show their emotions at all, right? So emotions are unseen forces which are created by the mind. Emotions are not there because they are there. They are created by the mind. And we will make a little exercise with it. They are most commonly created subconsciously. And this is why this might sound as a surprise, because you are not aware that the mind is creating them. But every emotion is in the end created by the mind, either in this life or in a life before. And we make a little exercise to warm you a bit up and experience that for yourself. So sit upright, take a deep breath. Inhale and exhale deep into your belly. A couple of more breaths. So you come to your happy space, to your safe space. And from there, you think about something that happened either recently or long ago that had made you very, very happy. Maybe a gift from somewhere or an achievement. Anything, what it is. And you think of it in every detail you can remember. Bring it really back into your mind, back into your body even, so the whole body is expressing this happiness. And with this feeling of happiness, you come back into your room and open your eyes. And now tell me, how does it feel? Just hands up and I unmute you, or unmute yourself when you want to say. How does it feel now? Peter, you have to unmute yourself. Good? You say good? Okay. Yeah, good. Okay. So do you feel a difference to before? Like when you came into the module, into the evening or morning, did you feel a difference? Is something has changed? Yeah. I mean,
I feel a change in my body for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. That would happen, obviously, because we have just created an emotion. We have created an emotion of happiness to whatever degree, maybe huge difference, maybe a small, whatever. But it is, you have created just fine. Nothing has happened. Nothing has changed. Nothing. Just a thought. And now let's do the same. So close your eyes again. Take a couple of deep breaths. And then think of something that you have been eaten recently that was really disgusting. You tried something new and it was really yuck. Or you ate something and it was off. And just go back to this moment and remember every detail of it. The taste in your mouth, maybe even the scent or the looks of it. And what you did afterwards. Did you try to brush your teeth or clean your tongue or try to get it out? And then come out again and open your eyes. How do you feel now? Has something changed from the happiness before? Down? Or meh? Meh, yeah, that would be to expected, meh, yeah. So just a very simple exercise just to understand that we are influencing our emotions, yeah. They're not coming from anywhere else. We are always free to choose our emotions once we know it, right? Yes, Virna.
I had a feeling in my stomach.
Very good.
Remembering the experience.
Very good. That's what happens. The body will take over the symptoms of the emotion, right? That's exactly what happens. And this is why we get sick. Because the body takes over the symptoms of the emotion. And the emotions are mind created. Of course, most of them subconsciously. But when you're raising your consciousness, you're much more aware of your environment, and somebody's attacking you and gets you out of your bliss bubble, you can soon, go back without taking this emotion into your body and sealing it in. You can release it instantaneously and not adding to it. And we will do some practical work with it. So I just briefly mentioned it. We go through the journey of the soul, and that's actually what happens is emotions that are not dealt with in this lifetime, they will continue to travel with your soul journey. And this is why we are healing not the body, but the emotions. And as you know now, the emotions come from the mind. So what we are really doing is we are working with the mind. Right? And that's not only consciously, it's subconsciously, because most of the emotion came subconsciously or were trapped in your body subconsciously. And now they also need to be released with the help of the subconscious. And that's all the work we do most of the time in spiritual healing. Yes, Rosie.
So if this energy travels from one lifetime to another lifetime, does emotions become part of the soul then?
Yes, they are in fact similar. Emotions are the soul.
Okay. Although they are created by the mind, they become part of the soul.
Yeah, they are manifested, so they are part of the soul. However, you will see when we continue, the mind and the soul are very, very close together. The mind and emotions are kind of one, and they are traveling together.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're not leaving your mind behind and only the emotions go. They are kind of always sticking together.
Hmm.
Like
So you're not
cause and effect.
So you're not just impacting your body, you're also impacting your soul, basically, or your mind.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So the body is impacted in this brief time on Earth. And if you're just concerned with healing your body, like taking pills, you know what, doing this or that, you might get more comfort in your body, but the soul is not, or the soul-mind complex is not healed. So nothing happens, you move on, you don't move on, you just continue, repeat. It's called the karmic circle, come back to that. And so we are not concerned about the body in this regard, because it doesn't make any difference in the long run. And also, on the other hand, it is not that every high conscious person or enlightened person has a pure body. They can be disabilities, or they might die, or they may have a heart attack. That's all possible, right? It is not like high consciousness is not a synonym for a completely, I don't know how to call it, standard body, a body without, I can't even explain it, a body with no symptoms, right? That's not what I mean, because they are not suffering whatever they have. That is not creating emotions of grief or anger or whatnot. Yeah, they are completely happy with the body they have. So this is a common mistake if we look at enlightened persons, or how I call them, consciously evolved persons, that we wonder why do they need a stick to walk with, or why do they cough, and why they should be they should be just, I don't know, and 110% health. That's not the case. It doesn't work this way around. It just works the other way around. Yeah. But we go in more detail, and it's more understandable once we go over the soul journey. Verna?
So it is important to look after the body, or not really? Because it does matter how long we stay on Earth in this physical world, if I die of 50 years old, it's not the same if I'm 80. I just take more time to heal.
Verna, that depends on how you use the years between 50 and 80.
Exactly.
A lot of people wasting those precious years.
Yeah.
Being retired. That will not happen to us, obviously. Yeah. Yes, of course, Verna, that's absolutely correct. It is important to look after the body, yes. Because the body is a temple of God in most traditions, and that's for a reason. Because as you see, when we go through to the spiritual realms and worlds, you will see that it's very important to have a body. And therefore, it is important to look after it. Yeah. But not because one is vain or obsessed with health or fitness. It's because it's a temple of God. It's a temple of your soul journey. Right? Just because of that. Okay, so emotions can become a separate entity on Earth. Who has listened to Eckhart Tolle? Hands up. Whoa, practically everybody. So you might remember the pain body, or Schmerzkörper in German, right? That is an expression from Eckhart Tolle, and it's so amazingly accurate. Like, he had really deep insights in this because he suffered it, and he can describe it beautifully. It is as if there is another entity. It can become so strong that it is ruling over everything in your life. And it can actually be another entity, and we talk about that when we talk about possessions and foreign energies. So this is how strong emotions can become. And in all religious traditions, that is called all sorts of things, devil and I don't know, evil things. But that is what it is. It's a pain body or a curse, as you might see later in the course, how curses are created. That's the same thing. It's an pain. It's an emotional. It's an emotion. It's from the host, so to speak. So from the mind, the host, isolated emotion becomes its completely own life. But the good news is we know now, or we not now, but after the course, we know how to deal with it. Emotions, we are still we are still here to define what emotions are. Emotions are vibrating from the highest to the lowest, from the darkest to the brightest, and from the unconditional love to fear. So it is all the range of vibrations you find in emotions. They are covering the whole range. And the home of emotions is the astral world. The astral world or the in-between world. When we talk about emotions, it is super helpful to be acquainted with the concept of Dr. David Hawkins, the map of consciousness. He was, or still is, I'm not sure if he passed or not, but
He passed 2 years ago.
Oh, thank you.
Or
Okay.
so.
Thank you. So he was very well known in New York. Obviously, Kate knows it. Psychiatrist, I think, right? Had a huge practice in New York, the biggest, I think. And then he had insights and he retrieved. He left everything behind and retrieved to Sedona in Arizona, to the desert. And spent years in contemplating. And during this contemplating, he got the insights about the emotions and frequencies they have. And then, because he's a scientist, he couldn't help himself, he had to scientifically prove it. And with the method of muscle testing, kinesiology or something, he actually has proven that every emotion calibrates, as he call it, at a certain frequency. And not only mesh, everything calibrates at a certain, everything that is alive, everything that is used by the spirit of life to vibrate or calibrate in a certain frequency. And of course, the ancient wisdom schools knew that because they have kind of the chakra system, right? And I put it next to it just to compare it. The colors are not the spiritual colors, so don't mix that up. That comes later. That's a different chart. But what we need to know is on which emotion or which calibration or which frequency an emotion has and what comes next. Because this is how we are, when we are raising the vibration of our own energy body, we are coming automatically into the state of higher emotion. Now that's really good news, right? On the other hand, there is such a thing as becoming the emotion that you are. And that is what leaves us in a certain, we call it the in-between world after that. So let's go into the emotions and understand them with this wonderful map from Dr. Hawkins. He wrote multiple books about it. Some are available on Audible, so please feel free and look him up. It's very interesting. So you can see the lowest emotion, the lowest frequency is not fear or anger, it is shame. Shame and guilt. And all of you are so familiar with family constellation, you know when shame and guilt appears, it is very hidden. It's barely noticeable. What is noticeable instead? Yes, Lucio?
Anger, is it?
Yes, anger. Sometimes fear, most often both, but definitely anger. This is how shame and guilt emotion hide, because nobody can live on this frequency. You can't live there. You cannot go out of bed in the morning. You know, it's impossible for you to face any day-to-day tasks when this emotion of shame or guilt would be in your consciousness, and you would actually allow to vibrate that way. This is why there is kind of a safety mechanism to shut that down and conceal it behind anger, sometimes fear, sometimes grief. So in between grief, fear, maybe even desire, I'm not quite sure about that, but definitely anger. That is very interesting, because you will work, when you work on yourself and others, and you get to the core and you find the guilt and the shame, you are there. You are at the heart of the matter. And you would see nobody knows it. Nobody, you don't see it. It is just coming up. When you go with the spirit in family constellation and or in spiritual healing, it comes up. And that what is supposed to come up, because you can only heal that what is known. It has to come from the subconscious mind, where it's hiding, to the conscious mind, where it's revealed. And then you can deal with it. Because in fact, shame and guilt is a completely fake concept. And this emotion is faked, so to speak. It doesn't really exist. If you understand the spiritual world completely, you know that. And with this knowledge, they dissolve in your own journey and the journey you offer as help to others. Apathy is a level where you can live, but apathic people, right? They are barely alive. They are not, you don't feel any life energy out of them, right? They might be able to feed themselves somehow and go by, but not very well, right? This apathic people who look rocking back and forth, and often elderly. This kind of apathy, where society has to look after these people because they cannot live on their own. So everything that is below apathy is impossible to live with. And this is why it's not on the chart, but suicide is calibrating due to Hawkins at -20. So the frequency of the emotion of wanting to kill yourself is calibrating that low. Obviously, because you don't want to live, you can't live. You just, there's no way, as you think. So then we are over. So when we are in grief, and that's calibrating at 75 from 1000. So just imagine, right? All this stuff is happening in the low 200. Yeah, from 1000. And most people never get out of that. The majority of people, I think he has a figure like 80% of the world population calibrates under 200. Under 200. Which is courage. Obviously, all of you are over 200 because you're here. That takes courage, right? So you don't need to be concerned with that for yourself. But so coming back to the lower, we are like overcoming apathy, where some basically can look after themselves, basically not can look after it, to grief. where you start to feel the emotion. That's where you start to feel it. And this is why the state of grief is, for a lot of people, the initiation to start to live. And they will have karmic, they will have tragedies in their life. They will lose a child, they will lose this, they will lose it, because this grieving is a gift, you know, to come into a higher frequency out of the very low vibrations. And then after grief comes fear. Fear is very low in calibration. Why? Because fear is not enabling life neither. Do you know Dr. Bruce Lipton? Anybody? Yeah. So Bruce Lipton has proven in the 80s or 90s, he was very famous for that, he still is, that with his experiments as a biochemist, I think, or biologist, or I don't know quite sure what he was or is, that a cell can only survive, will only make two choices. That's what he said, two choices. A cell will only make two choices. It goes either to what is nourishing or retracts from what is poisoning. So nourishing is everything which is over the green colors, and poisoning in this means is everything under the green colors, right? So when you're in a state of fear, you cannot really go to nourishment. The cells can't do that, we can't do that. So the state of fear is keeping everybody in low frequencies, everybody down, barely possible. You can survive on your own in the state of fear, but that's it. You can only survive. And as we later will see, the subconscious is only concerned with your survival, not with your happiness. And that is why the subconscious is repressing a lot of memories and just allowing the fear to be expressed. That's the first state where the subconscious allows an emotion to be expressed. And you know what's going on in the world since eons is to put the people under the state of fear, just to keep them there. Because you know, politics and societies don't want enlightened people. They are not good consumers. They're not going to wars. They're not taking drugs, pills as the pharma industry wants it. They're just not. So that is obviously, and you can see it every day. In the news, everything is about something to fear the people. Wow, ridiculous. No. Over fear, the next step is desire. And desire, that's probably too far now, but desire is also connected, or this state of desire is also connected kind of with the seven sins and all this concept of religious traditions, right? So it's all vibrating low, but high enough to be able to contribute to society. This is why if somebody's not in fear, then they should be in desire, becoming a really good consumer and desiring all the stuff that's been produced. And it's equally good. Either you are in fear or you desire things. But there's a really strong force, which is anger. Anger calibrates at 150. And it's certainly an emotion that you find is not very desirable. But for people who are in fear, anger is a good thing, because they can express their emotions in anger much better than they can when they are in fear. And that's actually a gift for these people, to come out of a lower state than anger, 100, and go up to 150. It's kind of you feel things when you are angry, right? And sometimes you feel really good about it, actually, because sometimes it's really good to be angry. And when you're in a therapy, maybe people want you to be angry and express this emotion. And over anger is pride. So, well, you know what pride means. You're very concerned with your ego. But still, you're not angry at others. You're just concerned with your own ego, which is calibrating a little bit higher. And now we're coming to the magic step from pride into courage. In courage, you have actually overcome this egocentric behavior of pride and found out you can change yourself. That takes courage. That's where change happens. Is when you found out, oh my gosh, if I change something in myself, I actually change my life circumstances and I actually change everything I probably find undesirable. This is why courage is a hallmark. And 20% of the population, due to the calibration of Hawkins, is reaching this hallmark in their lifetime. Right? So then now you have courage to do something about it. And every single person who comes to you, including yourself and others, they have this courage, because otherwise they wouldn't be there. And they can be angry and they have guilt and shame. We're not talking about momentarily emotions, we're talking about the emotion that is most prominent in the person when he's calibrating a person. It's not like, you know, you can have all the emotions one at a time, but you are not the emotion. You're just experiencing it. Over courage is neutrality, where you're a little bit like, okay, so what is this then all about? It's like waking up. It's a little bit like waking up from a dream or from a deep sleep, and you wake up and you think, oh gosh, where am I? What is this all about? You know, you don't feel really emotional about it. You have the split second where you are neutral. You wonder where you are. Maybe you wake up in a hotel room and you had a really deep sleep and you wake up and you wonder where you are. That's this emotion of neutrality, which already calibrates at 250. So that's very promising. And then comes willingness to, okay, now I really want to do it. I really want to do. I really want to evolve. I really want to be more happy. I really want to be more free. And not everybody who comes to family constellation is already in the state of willingness. They are often resentment, but they all have courage. Acceptance is already a big step, 350. Acceptance is what we work with in family constellation when we start a constellation. We're looking at that, what is, and accept it completely, as if nothing needs to change. And interestingly, from this state, change happens. First, accept it. Reason, that's when you start to contemplate and gain knowledge, like this course, you know, and you wage things, so you make decisions. You are able to decide about your emotion. You are able to say, okay, somebody has approached me in an unfriendly manner. Now I decide to be friendly to this person, and not unfriendly or shocked or in fear or whatever. That would be a reason. That's already a higher state of consciousness. You're controlling your emotions without using energy for it. You're using reason for it. And then comes the state of love. So now this is not the love we are talking in romantic relationships about. They are all ranking in the lower under 200s. Romantic relationships are all to do with desire mostly, or sometimes anger or pride or fear. When we talk about love of 500, this has nothing to do with attitudes or attachment. This has only to do with unconditional love. That means you love all men equal, not one. or all women equal not one, or all animals. No, just everything that is alive. That is unconditional love. 5. Now, over unconditional love is joy. And joy is a lovely description from joy is happiness without any reason. Not happy because, oh, there came my box for wish, or oh, I have passed this exam, or oh, this guy looked at me. Not that happiness. Happiness, you wake up in the morning and you are happy. Not because the sun is shining, just because you're happy. Have you ever experienced that? Isn't that a great feeling? Look how high this calibrates. 550, halfway to enlightenment. Oh. So obviously this is always a fling we have, but you know how it is, and you know what to desire, so to speak. That's a good desire. Yes, Ali.
Can this feeling of joy be connected with gratitude as well?
Yes. So what actually on this level 540, there's a lot going on, and that is the hallmark is compassion. Right? So through compassion for all beings, you are experiencing this joy. Because you're happy for all beings and there's no reason. You don't need a reason, right? And it is the seed of spiritual healers and saints. And gratitude in general, gratitude to life is definitely part of compassion. And the perception is here perfection in creation. This is also a state which is beyond unconditional love, because you accept also and you also perceive that which is not loving as perfect. Right? So at this stage, you are healing from this knowledge and from this vibration of everything is good as it is, but everybody should have the chance to evolve in this emotional state. Right? So joy is a marker for everybody who is aspiring a spiritual freedom. And this is, I repeat it, why it is so important to show compassion to animals also in your lifestyle choices. Compassion to animals, compassion to people, compassion to yourself, obviously. You're part of it all, right? That's really, really, so always, because in this you can, above the state of 400, you have choices. You can choose everything. Everything is your choice, right? You have no choices when you are in a state of 150, anger. You're just angry. But if you're in calibrating at 400, you have choices. And you can change habits, because things are just becoming habitual, right? And then the higher frequency above joy would be peace as the highest achievable state on earth. So when you are in the state of peace, you would not be concerned with healing anymore. It's just nothing that comes to your mind, because you're at peace. There's nothing that drives you. Right? This is also a state which is borderline, where you normally leave, right? Because there's not much to achieve on earth. And enlightenment 700 to 1000 you find rarely on earth, because why would they be here? They normally have no reason to be here. But some extreme, I don't know, compassionate spirits might want to come and share through their beingness and show us that it's possible. But these are normally frequencies that are calibrating in other worlds. We're coming to that. Okay, so let me just make a time check and then question before we move on. I bet you have some questions. Just go ahead, raise your hand, unmute yourself. Yes, go ahead, Rosie.
So you mentioned that in a romantic relationship, you're usually in like desire or sometimes fear. Does that mean that if you're in a romantic relationship, you won't be able to get up levels?
That's a tricky question, eh? It's like
I
a
know.
trap.
Yeah. I've been
Okay. Okay. Shall I share my personal experience or
Yes,
my
that's all good.
personal
Yeah.
personal experience is exactly
Yeah.
better to be alone. However, you are not there yet, right? And life is fun and enjoy it, and just be aware, don't be too attached. If you think it's time for you to move on, you need to be able to let that go.
Yeah.
Right? That's all. You need to be able to let it go. Or if by grace something happened and whatever, he just leaves or has another or whatnot, and then you have to let go.
And so what happens if two persons, like whether in like in any type of relationship, a friendship or a romantic relationship, like two persons are in different frequencies, what happens with that? You know what I mean? Because sometimes, yeah, you feel like you need that distance in.
Yeah, you would, because you are not quite calibrating together or vibrating together, and it would be not very harmonious. Right, in the end. So one who calibrates higher is not so attached to the partner as the one who's calibrating lower, who is angry or has fear or desires, right? And then that's probably not gonna last. So of course romantic relationships are fun, lovely, and of course we all want children, and that's all wonderful. And I'm sure there are relationships that are evolving together. Absolutely sure. That's possible. Absolutely sure.
So we're going up and down this
Yeah.
scale.
No, you only go up. If you think you're going down, you're already observing from a higher state.
Okay. I know
So,
that I go,
yeah, that's just a
bring
temporary
me down
emotion.
into the lower.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know. That's just a temporary emotion. That's not the emotion that you are. That's an emotion that is subconsciously coming up, or that is created through belief systems and patterns. But if you are, as soon as you're aware, oh my gosh, now I'm angry, you're already resonating on 400 reason.
Okay, I see.
So it's just the awareness of the emotion. People who are calibrating at 150 are angry and don't know it.
Right, got it. Okay.
They're angry, they drink, they destroy relationships, they you know what angry people do, and they don't know it. They don't know that anything is wrong with them. They never contemplate about it, because then they would be in the state of reason. So if you have your emotions and you're aware of all the range of emotions, you are at 400 or at 350 at least. Peter. I can't hear you. You have to speak. Your loudspeaker is very low. Your speaker must be more volume. Can you hear him? No, we can't hear you. Check your mic situation. Something's wrong with your mic, Peter. We could hear you before and now we can't. But you can write it in the chat, your question. Yeah. Okay? Virna.
What happened in the case of being okay in your happy mode and then suddenly meeting other people, seeing other people, and then your energy kind of dropping?
That is just because you are not keeping your own frequency, but you're tuning in with others. Something you learn in the course of this course, how to stay in your own energy.
Okay, that's important because
That's very
I
important.
suddenly it just suddenly changes, and I feel tired, and I'm like, what happened? It's like, oh, and I feel like, you know, going into, it's cold, going to dip myself in the sea or do something.
Yeah, that happens when you don't know how to put up guards and how to stay in your own energy as opposed to being subject to foreign energies. No.
Okay.
Peter, try it again. Are you in the chat? I can't see your chat. Did you write something?
Yeah, he's saying, how can I test how high my frequencies are?
Ah, hang on, I see it. Yeah, thank you, Rocio. Now it's coming through. No, why do I not see? Ah, it's covered. Hang on, let me just. Oh yeah, okay, it's covered on my computer. Yeah, here we go. How can I test how high my frequency is? So, muscle testing is what is what he uses. Hawkins.
Sorry, say that again.
Muscle testing, kinesiology, is what he uses. So you need a surrogate for that. So you need somebody who can muscle test. I think that would be much easier than you try it on yourself. I always doubt that self muscle testing works. But it doesn't work for me. So, oh, what do you have there, Mariella?
You know, just a guide with a few, very few muscle tests of acupuncture. So yeah, there's it's a lot written on there.
So it's a book.
This one is by John Tsai and Matthew Tsai.
Okay. You can put in the chat if you want that for everybody. There are lots of, there are courses you can learn muscle testing. So yeah, Peter, that's how you learn, how you've calibrated. You find out your calibration. But you can also find it out with your thoughts and behavior. You don't need to, you just observe yourself. And then you find it out. As I said, if you be able to fetch every emotion, you are at 400. Because calibrating at 4, even 500, doesn't mean you have no emotions. The Dalai Lama has been quoted, asked by a journalist, is there anything that bothers you in your life? And he said he can't deal with either flies or mosquitoes. I don't know. Yeah, that was his answer. That makes him angry, or at least impatient, or obviously, because, that's happening. But being aware of it is a whole different story. And when you're aware of it, then there's just one more step to actually make another choice. So you might are reactive towards in the person approaching you. You might have reacted to a situation, and then you say, "Oops, I actually don't want to go in this low frequency. I actually want to be at least, instead of in anger 150, in neutrality 250." You can choose that, and then you don't go as far down anymore. And you should, through the whole course, being at the end of the whole course, you should never go, I would say, under 125 ever. Let's say under 75, because there might be some grief, but the rest would not be possible for you to even experience. And the other emotions that would be experienced as awareness. So that's the good news. Okay, hang on, how do I get the chat out now? Let me just figure that out. Ah, yeah, yeah. Ah, yeah, Touch for Health. Yeah. I made a course once that was also called Touch for Health. Okay.
Hi, Maya.
So,
Can I share something? Maya,
yes,
can I
please.
share something really quickly? I have an aura machine that I use for my clients where I check their aura before our sessions, and then I check their aura after. And what I have noticed is that I've seen people that come and their aura is very red and yellow. And as soon as we have a session and we do meditation, their aura color rises to purple bluish. And it's really fascinating to see how you can literally affect your aura when you are in a stage of low vibe, and when you meditate and get into that place of connecting to your high self, you can rise up to affecting your aura into a very more enlightened space.
Yeah, beautiful. That's exactly so. The people who can see auras, or they're measuring the frequency of emotion. That's all there is. Yeah, right. Yeah, this is how you know your work works. Yeah, because your work only works when you are raising yourself and others in higher frequencies. Okay. Right. Okay. So I'm inclined to make a short break now. It's kind of half time. Yeah. Shall we do that? And because we have only 2.5 hours today, we don't take 10 minutes. We take 7. Is that enough? Okay, so in 7 minutes, look at your watch, watch your watch. In 7 minutes, I see you again. Okay. Right, okay, so back to the second part, the second half of part 1. We were talking about the frequency of emotions and covered the basic concept about emotions and what they are. And now we talk about who or what is the spirit. So if you think of it, obviously, it's also an unseen forces. So we are talking only about unseen forces here: energy, emotions, mind, and spirit. And spirit comes from Latin and is first defined in this way. Is Latin, is breath, the breath, and is first defined in the mid-century as the animating of vital principle in man and animal. Simple as that. Or in other words, to breathe life into matter, or the breath of life. That's spirit. Is it opposed to soul, which is in Latin anima, as you might know from C.G. Jung, which are thoughts, emotions, and personality, is forming the soul. Other names for spirit are higher self, consciousness, God, the essential principle of something, the soul, source of all things, or simply life force, or lots of other names. And we just call it simple spirit. Spirit has nothing to do with being spiritual or seeing spirits, like in this regard, right? The home of the spirit is the world of light. And as you see, when we go in detail about the birthing process, we are all spirit. So all of us, everything that is alive has its home in the world of light. Right? We need to understand birth and death to understand fully how life is forming and what is it that lasts that we actually want to heal. Yeah. And I make a brief summary here because the whole topic of birth is part 3 of our module, and the whole topic of death is part 4. So just a brief overview, so we are all up to speed when we're talking about these words. in the teaching that I'm conveying here, which is of Malcolm South, but there's lots of other traditional teachings, and as I said, much more complex, subtle bodies than just the three bodies we are talking here. But the three bodies is the best, simple, easy to understand, easy to work with concept, that and all you need really to do the work. So this is why I say we are composed of three parts: body, thoughts and emotions, and the spirit. And they all come in form of energy, vibration. And the body is the densest energy, forming what we call matter, but it's still only vibration. And then there is a more subtle body, which is emotions, thoughts, and personality, which is forming a more subtle body, so you cannot actually perceive it with eyes anymore. And then there is very subtle body, which is the spiritual body around that. The purpose of birth is giving the opportunity to become more loving and compassionate and master egoistic tendency and thoughts. That's the whole purpose of the birth. And why we can only achieve that on earth with the method of birth and having a physical body, that's all part of what we discover in this module. Change can only happen in the physical body. Through experience a new emotion in the body and take the experience with to move up in the spiritual worlds. Why can change only happen in the body? You all know that. You can learn as many information as you want in school, for example. Right? You learn we get so many information in school. Who remembers any of those? Honestly. Anybody? Kate, you do? Barely anything, right? Information.
I remember biology.
And why? Because you loved it. Yes.
Yeah.
And why? So now when you love it, you start to experience it. That's the whole difference. So information become knowledge only through experience. You need to experience it. You need to experience it in the body. That's the only way to experience things. Right? So when you have information and you experience them through your perception, then it becomes knowledge. And the knowledge is what you never forget. Because it becomes you. It becomes you. It is in part of yourself. It's part of your bodies. It's a part of your aura. It's part of everything. That's the knowledge that you gain. So every information is not for anything good when you cannot experience it. Right? So also in this course, as I said, you don't need to believe, but also don't disbelieve it. It's at the moment it's information, but it will become knowledge when you live it. And practically everything we are talking about, you can actually experience with other than that, really. But we can actually experience. We did this exercise in module 1, and we will do it again to experience it in a way. Yeah, so it becomes knowledge. Change, meaning you have knowledge and therefore you made a better or another choice, right? You can only change with knowledge. That's basic of change. So change can only happen in the physical body through experiencing the new emotion in the body and take the experience with you to move up in the spiritual worlds. So this is why we have to look today at the spiritual worlds to understand what that means. And all the details about birth, and there's a lot to say about it, we have in part 3. Death is also part of death. So death is the opposing side of birth. It's not, people talk about life and death, but that's not correct. Life is not dying. Life is an energy form that always exists. Only the physicality of the body dies and is regained in another form through birth. So death belongs to birth. and not to life. Birth and death belongs to life together. So what happens when a person dies? So as I told you, what I cannot tell from my experience, because I'm not dead, so I cannot tell you that. But there are lots of near-death experiences that people talk about, and it's fascinating. I don't know, have you ever inquired or read about it? Anybody? Yeah? Near-death experiences, it's so fascinating. Just Google it and find some. Every single one, and I think maybe a few of you, and maybe you want to share, maybe you had a near-death experience and you can share that. Kate can share it. So that would be great if you could share it in a moment. You read about is that the leaving of the body is not perceived as such. The connection to the body seems to be very vague. So attachment to the body is not very strong. And that you feel a nice sensation and not anything awful. And that you clearly perceive yourself as being alive. That's what you basically, every near-death experience is reporting back. Kate, would you like to share?
Well, I've never died. I've had 2 times when I thought I was going to die. So I would call it a near-death experience because I was floating out to sea in one of them. I was about 8. And yeah, so I left my body and I had no fear and I was quite happy to die. Yeah, so I've never been afraid of dying ever since then. Because it
So
was
actually,
peaceful. Yeah, I wasn't getting eaten alive, of course.
So when you say it was quite peaceful, and so you felt yourself as being alive, obviously.
I felt I was alive. I left my body, which was floating in the sea, and I didn't think I could. I knew I couldn't get out, so I didn't think there was any chance of being rescued. So I left my body. Yeah. And then I was rescued.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you were on sea, you were drowning or something?
I was floating out to sea in a sea pussy and down the beach, and there was nobody around.
When you wait, okay. So that's, thank you for sharing. So the point that I'm getting at is while you are actually leaving your body, you are not dead. Because you perceive.
Right, I felt, and I didn't feel any fear of, like I didn't actually die, but I did feel a transition of leaving the planet and
being okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Rocio.
So what is the difference between that experience and an out of body experience as well? Because you know that a lot of people, they do like meditations to actually feel that they're like floating out their bodies and then they come back.
It's the same.
It's the same thing.
Yep. And we're all dying in the night every time.
Yeah.
We are all leaving our bodies in the night. The only difference is, the only difference is we are not remembering that, we are not experiencing it. Right? That's the difference. Yeah, we are leaving. So we are always dying in the night. That's a natural thing. That's natural. Because when do I talk about that? Maybe I see if it's on my charts. Otherwise, it comes up. So we have, we go into detail later. Yes, Verna.
In 2012, I had a surgery, and I felt, in fact, talking about it, and what did I feel that it kind of made me feel sick to my stomach right now. What I experienced, I did experience a little bit of fear because it was a kind of a wake-up call that if I didn't do anything, I was going to die. After having all the morphine and the anesthesia and everything, it was kind of like floating, but knowing that my spirit was leaving the body, and I felt the call of doing and saying something, because otherwise I was going to die.
Yeah, and you were not ready.
Yes, I was kind of an instant of desperation, like I need to sit, I need to do something.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, wake up call. Yeah. Lots of choices you get when you have this experience, so it's a good thing. I think it's very enriching. Yeah. However, we don't need to experience it. We can learn from it, and we can experience it in meditation. As Rocio said, you can experience it in an out-of-body experience. Sometimes when you dream, you can experience, so you can experience it in small portions, so to become knowledge to you, not barely information that you get or read about. So what happens when a person dies? Because that's kind of what we are about in this module, is about energies, energy healing. And when we talk about energies, we're talking about electric and magnetic energies. And what happens actually when we are dying is that these energies that are created when our body is created, or trapped in our body when our body is created, these energies are holding the subtle energies, the soul, meaning the emotions, the thoughts, the personality, and the spirit, close to the body, right? Like a magnet. But when the life force is leaving, the magnet becomes less and less strong. And the natural tendency, the pull towards these energies to their homes, right, becomes stronger than the back pull of the body. So they want to go there. And we do that in the night because we are so relaxing that also that has to do with the heart. Our heart slows down, the energy is becoming less strong, and then we can have these out-of-body experiences, either in meditation or when we're sleeping, or even in deep sleep unconsciously all the time, every night. But still, the life force of the body is still holding so close that you're not going far. You're never going far. You stay very close. Few exemptions. One of them is Malcolm Southwood, who, since he was a young child, was very comfortable experiencing all realms of the spiritual world, and instead of out of body, he practically lived there half of his time, and this is why he became such an awesome teacher, because he brought all this wisdom back to become a healer. Yeah. The illusion of dying is exactly that. What Kate was talking about. You are not thinking you're dying because you're not dying. You are not dying. The body is leaving behind. So the idea of I am dying is fraudulent. It's an illusion. You are not dying. You're leaving your body behind.
I did have the experience of knowing everything.
Oh, wow.
It was I don't know it anymore, but I remember the satisfaction of feeling that there were no questions, like I just knew everything.
Yeah, and you were a child, so you are still very connected to your soul.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be much easier for you than for an adult who has the same experience. Yeah. Because for the child, it would be like, oh, I'm going home. I just came from there. Now, I'm going back. So more comfortable than for the adult who has developed more personality already and thought form and everything else makes it more difficult to have this realization of knowing of where you come from. So that's actually the illusion of dying. That's it. That's why. That's very simple. It's not much spiritual about it. That's the illusion of dying. So once you know you can't die, all fear dissolves. And if you go back to our chart of the frequencies of emotion, what are you? Right above, way above fear, all of a sudden. Just with this realization that death is an illusion. And how many spiritual teachers conveying that over and over again, because it has such a big impact. Like the Course of Miracles is all about the illusion of dying, and yoga is about the illusion of dying, and all kinds of spiritual teachings about the illusion of dying. Right? But it's not accepted if you're in this state of fear or below, because you can't. But getting out of fear, boom, it all becomes clear. So what is dying, what is on? We touched it already, just the body is really left behind. Just to remember, everything is energy and information, and these are forming vibrations. So vibrations can't go anywhere. They're always there, and they're always keeping their frequency as well. That's another hint why you cannot really die. The karmic cycle is a widely known term for this cycle of death, leaving the body behind, and birth, adopting a new body for one and the same soul. That's all. The karmic cycle has nothing to do with atonement for sins in another life or something. We talk about all this in part 4 when we talk about death in past lives and fiction. But just to take that off right away, karmic cycle is only, karmic means action in Sanskrit, and it's only the principle of cause and effect. That's all. There's no guilt involved, there's no shame involved, there is nothing, it's just that, simply that. And karmic cycle can be very high vibrational. It doesn't need to be low vibrational, right? Now we are going into the spiritual concepts that we have kind of went through the basics. There are lots of ancient wisdom schools, and you're very welcome to discover one or each or more of those. What is the basic of this knowledge of the spiritual concepts that I'm talking about, referred to as of Malcolm Southwood, is also what you find in the essence in the Gnosis or in the Gnostics, which is the ancient teaching of knowledge. Gnosis means knowledge. And they were concerned with the question, who are we? Where do we come from? Where are we heading? And why are we here? So the 4 most important questions we can ever ask ourselves and others, right? And that is where you have to where you come to understand the spiritual world. And this is how this knowledge came to in existence, because you just ask the right question and answers will always be given. It's just a matter of asking the right question. Don't need to be concerned about the answers. They all come through your life. Your life will show the answers because you ask the right questions and your spirit guides you exactly to the answers. The Vedas, Ayurveda, is also one of these ancient teachings that teach you about spiritual. Very much more complicated though than what I tell you. It's a whole study in itself. And hard to comprehend because it's all based on Easternly. Sorry, I have to shush my dog just quickly. My gosh. Vedas are the Ayurveda. That's the Easternly way of explaining the spiritual world and life and birth and death and everything else. As I said, it's very complicated. I didn't study it, but I know of it. And then, of course, there are Westernly concepts, and the religions are concerned with it, but that's very distorted. I wouldn't go there with hell and heaven and everything. There is a kind of a truth to it, a tiny little bit of truth is to it, but then they're so distorted by this structures of power and control that you can't really get the essence out of it. So it's better to stick to some more clear spiritual concepts as I'm conveying now. And when you are very interested in it, there are books from Malcolm Southwood, and you can read them all. They are all great. So The spiritual worlds is what we want to know about. And I'm talking about these 4 spiritual worlds. To simplify it, and that's all we need to know. We're talking about the earth. Yes, the earth is also a spiritual world because spirit lives here. It's a world of experiences. And then we have the astral world. It's a world of emotion. We have the in-between world. That's a world of attachments and addictions. And then we have the world of life. That's where the innocent live. Children, advanced beings, and animals. And of course, that's where spirit lives. Spirit can only live in the world of light. It's made out of light. Talking about the earth. Now, the earth is the world of experiences and perception. Only through the physical body is experience possible, right? You need a physical body for that. You need to experience pain and sensations and all other things, right? When you think of an emotion about bad food, like Virna said, she felt it in her stomach. So this is why we have a body. This is why earth is so precious. It's a precious experience for the souls and for the spirit, because you can only do it here. Changes are slow on earth because of this dense energy that is here that forms the body, the material world. Changes are very slow, right? This is why it's really hard to change for us. Even if we want to change, it's really not easy. And most change, like look at genes and genetics, how slow that changes over for so many generations. Very, very slow. This is by design, because only when a change is slow, you can actually have the time to experience it truly in its depth. If it would change very quickly, you have a thought on a change, which it does in other spiritual worlds, you just think, the thoughts are fluttering around and you never have the time to experience it, even if you would have a body. So it needs to be slow. And this is why we have so many lifetimes on Earth, because change is slow, and that is by design. Because in the end, time only matters in the realm of the Earth, and not in the other realm. The reality is only perception. Everything is vibration. You are aligned with like vibrations, so your perception is unique. You know that when I was studying law, you've been trained that if you have witness statements, you can't trust. You have 4 witnesses experiences the same accident on the road, and you get 4 complete different statements. One said the culprit was a man, the other said a woman, one said they had a raincoat on, the other said they had tie and then the suit on. That's perception, and everybody thinks they are right because they have perceived it. And this is why you can't rely on your perception as truth. And because every human being has a different perception, there is no such thing as a singular reality that we have, so to speak. Each person, yeah, we talked about that. And since we are all vibrations, we can only calibrate with alike vibrations. We see everything in the mirror. So when we become very observant, we don't need kinesiology or any other testing to find our vibrational, our calibration on frequency. We know it by observing ourselves and what emotions come up and how we deal with them. Right? So you can check on the list up and down. So that is a good thing to remember. You're constantly looking in the mirror. So if somebody makes you angry, and of course that happens, you still know, okay, so I experience the emotion of anger, which obviously is still vibrating in my body. It does. Not to a huge amount, but it does. But as I said, in the moment you are able to observe that, and you are in reason, you're very, very high up the ladder. The goal is on Earth to gain experience, to evolve, to raise your vibration, your frequency. That's the only goal. And without the Earth, that wouldn't be possible. That's the basic layer of the concept of spiritual worlds. The astral plane. I'm sure you all have heard the terminology astral, right? Or is it completely new to anybody, to somebody? It's quite familiar, isn't it? We heard about that. So that's also as real as the Earth. It's just in unseen forces, because the astral world is the home of the emotions, the thought, emotion, or personality form that the soul becomes after the experience on Earth. So what happens is you are I just trained how you are becoming, you will have a dominant emotion, which is then also the frequency that can be calibrated, that can be seen. Yeah, when you are dying, when your physical body is left behind, you are in a certain frequency, and the frequency is matching an emotion. And in the astral plane, you are drawn to this emotion, because again, it's the same natural law exists everywhere. You are drawn to the same vibration. So your soul goes to the astral world, where people have leaving their body behind, where souls are residing that have more or less the same vibrational pattern. And this is why it's so positive and you feel so at home. But who doesn't like to be known and be with like-minded, like feeling people? We like to do that, right? That's what we prefer. Same for the souls. So they are drawn. But now here comes the thing. Why do we have an astral world? Now think about the experience you have. So you came as a soul from the astral world. You have a lifetime of experiences here, and you leave on another vibration. That's why you came. Ideally, you might stay in the same, but ideally you leave on another vibration, right? So you need to come to rest somewhere and contemplate about what has happened, yeah, and find out, what do you want as your next step? Where do we take it from here? And that's what you do in the astral plane. And that's also where you have teachers and guides. And as always, you ask and help will be given. So you just ask a question and you will get the answer, but you cannot experience it. You can only gain information, but you cannot experience them as lived truth, because you need a body for that. And this is why souls dwelling in the astral world is, regardless how comfortable it is emotionally, they want to reincarnate. They want to get another body, because they made a plan. They made a plan who to become. And they're waiting for the chance, for the next body, for the next experience, to get it. And these emotional vibration, as you know from the chart before, they can be very low. They can be guilt and shame. And then you are together with people who feel the same emotion. So you're not alone. And that is probably where this concept of heaven and hell comes in, you know, that just imagine you are, you know, ashamed, and everybody around you is ashamed, you know, how awful that would feel. But it doesn't feel awful, because that's your predominant vibration. So it doesn't feel awful. It feels actually homey. Yeah. And that's what you get there. And as higher you vibrate, as more you are open to learning, and as more help you get. But everybody gets help, every soul, nobody's left behind. It's not about that. Nobody's bad or good. These kind of concepts do not exist in the astral world. This is why heaven and hell is a wrong concept. There is no such thing as a bad vibration. It's just a vibration. But evolving, happens to raise vibration, come into a state of higher consciousness. That's where the soul evolves. This is why there is a desire, an yearning to go there, to get the chance to change something, to come into a higher vibration, to reach the state of reason, and then eventually reach the state of joy. That's the yearning of the soul. So this, hang on, is this actually changing? Did this change on? No, it hasn't. Let me just see why I stopped the
Pulsing
screen
earth.
share. Yeah, I'm way over that. So I just stop sharing and reshare because it somehow has stopped. Okay, I don't know why, but it's coming up. So that was the slides I was talking about. The astral plane. So, so what is important to know is, and that's very practical, applied in the work we do in family constellations and the healing modalities that we integrate, is this to understand the spiritual colors, because every emotion has a color, and they are quite varying, and this chart is coming up, so we go through that. So also every astral plane has a like color. Days, because every soul there is vibrating in this vibration, and colors are they are to be perceived. What else did I? Yeah, so the real karmic cycle is exactly that: learning, healing, re-entering. That's the karmic cycle. It's not atonement for sins or becoming an aunt because you crushed an aunt in your first life or something like that. That's not what happens at all. Right? Then the astral plane, due to the frequencies there are, they have different levels. Obviously, as higher it gets, as higher the vibration gets, as more sophisticated is the teaching. So there is a high astral world, which is teaching love, which is teaching unconditional love. So everybody is going in the high astral world who is leaving the body and is calibrating at what was below unconditional love. Let me just go back. Oh, no. Back. Here we go. Where was this? Here. Reason. So remember, you are in the state of reason on earth. You know you have choices. You observe your own emotions. You still have emotions, but you can't control them because you're aware of them, and you're reasoning, you're contemplating on it, and you have the desire to not react to emotions anymore. Then the next step would be love. So you would be in a realm, if your soul leaves the body, who is going to teach you unconditional love. Also just the information, obviously, because the experience is missing, lacking. So therefore you have to adopt a new body to come back and actually experience that. Coming back to our astral plane. So that is the high astral world. So there is where you've been taught to, you know, what it is to really, truly unconditionally love. And that is something wonderful for all of us to aspire. So that would be something why we want to heal ourselves and others maybe. But first and foremost ourselves, because we want to get out of these traps of emotion and evolve into a firm state of reason, even already in professional. Then there is a high astral, the mid astral world, where it's all about karma. This is this cause and effect. Right? you've been taught that whatever you do has an effect, and that you are vibrating in the same emotions as if you do. So when you lie to somebody else, you don't gain any advantage, because you are the lie. Yeah. So you would go into the realm of deception, because you are the lie. You are deceiving yourself. You're not deceiving others. This is why lying don't work. It just doesn't work at all. The only when you want to do anything bad to somebody, you have to be in the same vibration to be able to do it. And this is actually karma. This is why that is the karmic cycle, cause and effect. And in the mid-astral world, you're learning about karma. You are learning about cause and effect, and you're learning about, so it's all below this vibration of reason, probably to 200 or 275 down. You're learning about that, and then you get the chance to go back and make a better choice, right? In the new body. Then we have the low astral world, which is the world of selfishness, the lowest vibration, or the lowest parts of the lowest, because guilt and shame is all about selfishness. How do you think you can do anything to somebody, so bad that is ego driven? Because if you think about it, if shame and guilt, and I'm not talking about children's trauma, I'm talking about this emotion created in adults, is thinking, oh my gosh, I'm so powerful that I can completely decide the destiny of somebody else with what I do. And then you feel guilty or shameful. So it is the selfishness, which is the realm of the lower astral world. And yeah, that is where you learn to escape out of this, because this is a wheel, like a wheel where hamsters are running in, this wheel of selfishness. The goal of the astral world is to learn about the choices you made on Earth and to make better choices in the next life. That's basically the goal. So now we come to the chart spiritual colors. So when you see how I work with the figurines, then you sometimes notice that I point out an emotion because of the color that is chosen with this figurine. And they are always very accurate. But the spiritual colors have another deep meaning when we go into regressions and spiritual healing, because we are actually healing by understanding this color system of the emotions and the astral world. So let's go through them. We are having a beautiful purple color of all shades. That is the high astral world. That is the world where you learn about unconditional love. Then you have blue, which is the mid-astral world, like a blue. I tried to match the, obviously, I can't guarantee the colors, but I try to match it as good as I can. The mid-astral world, when you see a blue shine around people, if you are very susceptible and you can see like auras basically, that means also they are not quite connected to the body, right? So you can quite see that they are coming from mid-astral and they are not quite connected to the body, which we talk about how that all happens in the birth segment. If you observe an emerald green, did we talk about the in-between world? No, sorry, I have to go back. Let me, no, it's coming here. Okay, let's go. Let's talk about the in-between world before we talk about the spiritual colors. So there's another world we need to know about, and that's the in-between world. When, at the moment of dying, of leaving the physical body behind, the predominant emotion is an attachment or an addiction that you became. So that's all that counts for you, right? As true addictions are. you can't go in astral. There is no way to go in any of these frequencies. What you go is, you go in the in-between world. And this is a world where you also find spirits or possessive energies or curses and all of that. And most souls go in deep sleep into the in-between world, not even to astral, because it's so close to us, right? So it kind of grabs all these who are not ready and open to leave their body behind. Yeah, so when you're addicted, it has to do with your body, right? It can be addicted to sex or drugs or alcohol, whatever. But you can experience it only through your body, so you don't want to leave your body. You can be attached to a person so badly that you don't want to leave them behind when you just don't want to go, right? So you have to stay in the in-between world, which is the closest to the earth. And this is also where we work with a lot then, because this happens a lot. It's so close to the physical realm that spirits easily be seen or attached to the other physical bodies. Also nighttime sleep, we talked about that. Most people don't leave the in-between world, but some are able to travel astral. Yes, Virna? Should I just go through my slide and then you ask the question? Or do you want?
It's about living when having the addictions and living not wanting to leave the world, not wanting to leave that situation behind. It means that if someone dies and then come back, how that happens?
Yeah, that's what I talk about. Just
Okay,
listen. Okay. Just listen. So attachment addictions keep you on close to earth in the in-between world. Obviously you don't have a body, so you're only in your soul form present, but it's close to earth, and you have no way to go to the astral world for any kind of healing or anything. So you are staying exactly as the same as you are, and this is how you are reborn. So you're just cycling at the same vibration, right? Until you overcome the addiction and then move on to the astral world where you get teachings and healings. In the astral worlds, the souls then don't rest and they don't understand. So when you think of the family constellation, when I sometimes point out when somebody is lying on the floor, that they have the eyes open, they look around, or they sit up, the representatives of a dead person, then it is they are in the in-between world. They don't know they are dead. And sometimes it's as easy as tell them you are dead. And then it makes click. Yeah. So when you're the in-between world is quite crowded, by the way, nowadays, right? I've been told, but I can understand it, like with reason, it's easy to understand why. And this is why there is not much evolvement. I mean, there's always evolvement going, because the higher frequencies are counterbalancing all the lower frequencies by far. It's like if you have a light in a dark room, you can have a little match and you have light, like in the room, right? So this little match and this vast darkness around you and this little match changes everything. This is the same with higher consciousness. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to live here. It would be horrible. Right. So there comes more. They rebirth at the same personality. So often, if there is a baby born and the family is there, they say, oh, look, he looks like grandfather, blah, blah, blah. It's not because he's so wise. It's because he is grandfather, blah, blah, blah. He's just been reborn. And then he adopts the same hobbies and he does the same things and he reacts the same way. And it's the way it is. He's reborn. It truly reborn with the same energy body, with the same emotional energy body. they can attach themselves to either people or animals, or sometimes also houses or areas, in the attempt to express themselves through others, right? And that's all happening when we talk about possessive energies and spirits. So as I said, they have to reincarnate in the same vibration. They have no chance to evolve. And the goal is, in the in-between, why such a thing exists, is to wait until a chance is to reincarnate and make better choices this time. But it's hard, because the only choice you can make is get out of the addiction. And it's not that you come with the same addiction necessarily, you just have another. But one day the soul gets out of the addiction. It just has enough. So nobody's stuck forever. That's like the hell scenario. That doesn't exist. But there might be a lot of incarnations which are kind of a waste of bodies, because there is no movement. But in the end, there's always movement. So, and now, let's go back to the spiritual colors. So, so this is the in-between where it has this emerald green. And when this color is more foggy or mushy, or more dirty, then you are dealing with kind of evil energies, with possessive, drugs, or underworld, and low astral people, right? Low astral souls. So that's this foggy, muggy green. Gray, the color comes all the time. All the time, it's gray. It's a fear of the unknown. And obviously, when you work with yourself or others, there's always this fear of the unknown, most of the time. And if
What do you mean? I'm sorry, what do you mean about the underworld?
That is the low astral world, where there's the vibration of selfishness.
I'm sorry, the vibration of what?
Selfishness.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
So this milky gray, when this appears, or foggy gray, this is an emotion of depression, also very low. It calibrates very low in frequency. Brown color is control. When brown comes, control. The personality, the general emotion is control. Orange is deception, not to be trusted. Now, I just pointed out because in some religious tradition, the monks are dressed orange. Right? And I don't have the answer why to you, because I'm absolutely sure they are not deceiving, like as a rule, but somehow they decided to wear the orange clothes. So, but don't be led astray by that. In the spiritual world, the orange is deception. Then we have red. Red is also something that happens very often. That is the color of desire, power, money, sex, or the color of anger. And if it is a soft red, it's a gentle emotion, so it's gentle. And if it's a light red, it's a weak emotion, and an emotion of no personal power. And when you see a dark red, that is uncontrolled lust, also very low vibration, because it got the addiction in it, and like the sin situation, where it really keeps you in a low vibration. Violet is different to purple. So violet is more like this flowery color. Violet is humility in its pure form. But if it's dark, and that's what actually now, that is what, for example, a high Catholic, how do you call them, priests? I don't know. Aware, it's a fanatical belief system. So also a low vibration, obviously. Yellow, happiness, children. And when it's a dark yellow, it's a fear of the known. which also is often visible in the work. Because you might work with a client who knows and fears to admit it, right? So that is the dark yellow. Another green, like this pure green, not the emerald green, this bright green that you find in nature, is peace, rest, and healing. It's also the color of the heart chakra, where exactly this happens, right? It's not the highest peace, it's the peace that you find in comfort in accepting what is. Peace, rest, and healing. And if it's dark, this green, then it would be jealousy and envy. Then we come to pink, which is love. It's also the color of the mother. And when we talk about love, we mean unconditional love. And the mother love is the closest to unconditional love that we can probably experience here on earth. Other than we go into the highest frequencies of the vibration of unconditional love and compassion to everybody. And then if it's dark, it's possessive love, which vibrates quite low. Indigo is the color of birth energies. And when it comes in a darker shade, it's also the color of intuition. Now that might ring a bell because you heard about the indigo children, right? And they have been often, or the last, I don't know how it is now, but when I was interested in that 15 years ago or so, they were like special star children and things like that. What actually happens is that the birth energy has not fully been absorbed by the body. And that happens, and we go through all of this in detail, with cesarean section. And now you know why we have so many indigo children. Because whole cultures have swapped from natural birth to cesarean. The color of gold is spiritual knowledge. And in a dark gold, it's a color of karma. And this is something else. It's difficult to heal because the karmic situation is by design wanted, yeah, by the soul to evolve. So there is not a desire to heal and not help from the spirit neither. So when the dark gold appears, it is a good idea to leave it where it is. Silver is the color of infinity. And if it comes in a darker shade, it shows a connection to someone in astral. So the silver line or silver umbilical cord are often seen from people who have out-of-body experiences. They see themselves connected to their body through this silver line, these are the people who are actually traveling into astral. White is a beautiful color of truth, but it will not very often show up because it normally shows up in a dull, dark, foggy, or cloudy form, and that is the color of hiding. And that shows up all the time. Because whenever you go in a regression, look at a color, it's either gray, the fear of the unknown, dark yellow, it's the fear of the known, or it is a dull white, it's a white cloud. That just means that whatever it is, it's hiding. So it's not gone, it's not going anywhere, it's just hiding. And it pretends to go into the light, and in fact, it's just hiding. And black, last but not least, is selfishness, not to be trusted, destruction. So somebody you want to avoid. So the very low vibrations of selfishness. Okay, and just this color chart, I'm sure I can hand that out to you somehow. I have to think about it, make an email or something like that, because this is something you really have to work with. You have to learn it because you can't carry it around with you. But once you learn the colors, then it's very, very helpful in your observations. So next chart. We've been there. Hang on. Now we come to the plane of light. So remember, astral and in-between world is the home of the souls, the energy of emotions, thought forms, and personalities. The body, the earth is the home of the body, the physicality, and the light, the word of light, is the home of the spirits. And we are all composed of these three parts: spirit, emotion, and body. So we are all living also in the world of light. Yes, Namshak.
I'm sorry, I just have one question about the I forgot how you called it, but is it bardo? Is it the same thing as the, what did you call it? I forgot. Hold on, let me look at my notes. In between world, is that the same as bardo? Bardo is when you come to a place before you incarnate, and it's a dark place and then you incarnate. Is it the same thing, or this is something completely different?
I don't know the place of bardo. When you're incarnating from the astral world, and we talk about that in part 3, there's a complete structure how this all happens, and that's not going through a dark place. The in-between world
bardo
is a dark place, if you will, in itself. So maybe that's meant by that.
It's bardo is a state of existence between death and rebirth.
And in which
So
tradition?
No, maybe.
Well, I don't know. In which tradition is it?
I guess it says Taiwan Buddhism, but I know it more as the practice that when I'm in the Akashic records.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I guess I'll research it some more. I was
that
just
would be
curious
great.
to know.
Maybe share that with us. So,
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. So the plane of light is where the innocence lives. Spirits are always innocent. Spirits are detached, so to speak, from the emotional body. This is pure creativity. That's the creative force in you. That's also the force that the breath, remember, the breath of life, the breath that gives life to everything. It's completely neutral. It has no emotions. So children are living here because they are innocent. They have no emotions, or if they have emotions, they shed them on their way because they haven't created them. They've been created by the adults around them. Advanced beings live here who have been vibrated over love, which is the highest astral, unconditional love. So everything on top of unconditional love, whereas another 400 frequencies is in the world. There are planes, obviously, in the world of light. They're on their planes. And animals are here because they don't have an emotional body, supposedly. So interestingly, I can talk about animals later in this module because I just started to work with animals. This is super successful. It's really, really interesting. In the world of light, incarnation is optional. So the spirits who were all living there, they might not want to incarnate anymore, which is fine. They don't need to. There's nothing to work on. So if they incarnate, they don't take on a so hang on. So if your spirit has a soul, has a soul in the astral world, it has to incarnate with the soul, obviously, right? So when the soul wants to incarnate, the spirit comes and brings it to life. But if you've been out of the astral world because you have evolved into the highest frequencies, then you don't have this body left behind, this emotional body, and you can freely choose if you want or if you don't want to do that, right? By the way, did you hear that? Did you hear any noises? My background? What
Very
do you hear?
slightly.
Very slightly.
Slightly.
Oh, good. Also, that works actually because my dogs are going crazy. Yeah, that's good to know. Okay, so re-entering is without the emotional body, and as such, you are coming in quite a pure state, which you can identify as the masters, who walk on earth. And the goal is the goal is to be in the world of light, is to create a new realm of existence, a completely new universe, if you will. It's pure creative. So that's an overview over the spiritual world that we are working with. And now we are talking about the, oh my gosh, time is almost, let me go through it. I hope you're all staying with me. We are talking about the thoughts and belief systems in the different realms. And I just talk you through it because it's quite self-explanatory, right? So the thoughts and belief systems on Earth are, you are what you think. But thoughts are not made by you. You are challenging them merely. Then they are creating your brain or something. So you are kind of adopting personality, and then you are channeling the thoughts that are using this personality. The mind is really, and we will talk about that more often, is a field of a morphogenetic field, a field of information. Emotions, belief systems, conditioning, identifications, personality, and ego exist on Earth, or are created on Earth, I have to say. They do exist also, not the ego as such, but the emotional body and the thought form of it, of the ego, they exist in the astral world, but they are created on Earth. Emotions and thoughts are creating each other, like, like a cat biting in the tail. So you have an emotion, you have a thought, you create the emotion, you have the emotion, you think about it, all the time. You think in that way the emotion is. So that's kind of this circle that you run through. This is why it's not so easy to change that. It's not so easy. Belief systems that are that you adopt are either inherited or acquired. So you either have it from a family system, or you build it your own. The thoughts and belief system in the in-between world is that you're stuck with your thoughts and emotions. You can't change them. You can't evolve. You can't contemplate on them neither. You attach maybe to another person or animal to force your belief and system and thoughts on them, even temporarily. You have to be reborn to change anything, so you have to wait to reincarnate. And the thoughts and belief systems are neither acquainted, not inherited. They are the ones that you leave the body with, without any change. In the astral world, thoughts and belief systems are, all thoughts and belief systems are available to contemplate on. So that is also called the Akashic records and other terms for that. So when you're in astral world, you are contemplating in your vibration about your vibration, so to speak. And you get all the information about it available to you. So you can always refer to it. You have guides, you have teachers to make you understand what has happened in the lifetime. They can be known, like they can, you can receive the information, but you cannot experience this. Therefore, you cannot make it a reality for yourself. Teachers support insights and guides mapping out a plan for the next earthly experience. And then there's this waiting for parents with a like gene pool. We're talking about that when we talk about birth and life situation that gives room for growth for you to incarnate in. And on the astral world, you're preparing for re-entering the body to align as much as possible, so it's success. Because birthing to create a human life is not so easy as it sounds. In the plane of life, there are no belief systems and no emotional bodies, so thoughts are purely creative and imaginary there. So, done it, almost on time. But let's not rush it. I would like you to ask questions if there are questions. Maybe you unmute yourself, everybody. And I stopped sharing the screen. Here we go. Here you go. So how are you doing?
A lot to digest.
Yeah. A lot of information. Any room for questions?
I was thinking of when we were talking about the in-between worlds, would that be something like limbo, the concept of limbo, or
Yeah.
not?
Yeah,
Huh?
I would say so. Yeah, this is a familiar a word for me. I would say, yeah. And that's also saying you're caught in limbo.
But
Yeah.
you can reincarnate from there, right? So
Sorry?
it's not like you're like the in-between world. You're in limbo, but you said that you can reincarnate from that space, right? It's not that you okay.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
you will reincarnate in the same vibration than before.
You're pretty much becoming the same person
The
again.
same.
Yeah, pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Can change, the addiction can change. It could be an alcohol addiction, becomes a drug addiction, or addiction to steal things, or, you know, any.
Smoking as well?
I don't think so, but maybe. If it's very
I
strong,
do.
if it's really strong, maybe.
What would you
maybe.
do for a cigarette? That's the thing.
Yeah.
How,
If that's the
how
case and you
important is
die
it?
at this
Oh.
moment, just
Well, you're
imagine.
killing yourself, right? Each time that you're smoking a cigarette, you're kind of killing yourself. So you're
But
giving
just
your life to.
imagine you die in this moment where you're craving a cigarette. Then you're trapped.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Is it sounds as if there is a location. Is it all just like in an aura, in another vibration, or
Yeah, that's all vibration. It all happens here. It's all happens.
all on? It's all here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, not here. There is no here and there. It's. This is why it's hard to fathom. But it has no space as such, and no time neither as such. Yeah, as we perceive it
And
on
this,
Earth. Yes.
in this in-between world, this is where the term would be discarnates, where they get attached to us, and they
Some will. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
for
Some
their
will.
advantage, for their addictions and all
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Because I work,
Yes.
I that's the kind of work that I do. I take discarnates and I send them back to the light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the in-between word. Yeah. Great. So, I mean, I see you tomorrow. And if you have any questions, then just we discuss it before we start. And right. So, I'm looking forward to see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank
day.
you.
Thank you,
Good
Maya.
night. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.